Welcome back, fellow UPSC aspirants. Ready for another deep dive? This time we're tackling those crucial current affairs from January 25th, 2025.
It's amazing how these daily events can really give you a sense of, well, the pulse of what's important, especially for those aiming for the UPSC.
Absolutely, every headline can hold a clue.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in. The Ministry of Tribal Affairs just held their National Conference of District Magistrates. And the focus, the PM JANMAN scheme, huge budget allocation, right? 24,000 crore.
That's significant, no doubt. But think about how this impacts particularly vulnerable tribal groups, those PVTGs. Communities still relying on pre-agricultural technologies, facing unique challenges.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem.
No, not at all. PM JANMAN brings 9 ministries together. It's housing, healthcare, education, all aimed at those tribal areas. Think health and wellness centers, mobile medical units, even Vandan Vikas Kendras, boosting those tribal livelihoods.
It's a pretty ambitious plan. I mean, are there challenges? Especially with, the history of disadvantage for PVTGs.
Oh, for sure. Think about the deep-rooted discrimination. They're often stereotyped, marginalized, even labeled as hostile. And land alienation is another huge hurdle. The Forest Rights Act hasn't always been implemented properly, leaving many without secure land rights.
So it's tackling those systemic issues, not just allocating funds. Now let's switch gears to clean energy. India has 5 new industrial clusters joining the World Economic Forum's TCI, Transitioning Industrial Clusters Initiative, right? Less emissions, more economic growth.
It's fascinating, actually. These clusters, Gopalpur, Kakinada, Kerala, Mundra, and Mumbai, they represent diverse sectors. Being part of TCI, well, it opens doors. Access to new technologies, funding, expert guidance.
Sounds like a win-win. But are there any roadblocks to, a smooth transition?
Well, the green premium is a big one. Clean energy can be more expensive. Take green ammonia, a key ingredient for fertilizers. Producing it cleanly, nearly 3 times the cost of conventional methods.
Wow, that's a big financial hurdle. Anything else?
Another challenge is the lack of standardized regulations
Yeah.
globally, even within India. This policy fragmentation, it just creates confusion and slows things down.
So it's not just about technology, it's about policy too. Now this is exciting. India is getting ready to launch its first human underwater submersible. Sounds like something straight out of a movie.
It's a bold move, no question. The Deep Ocean Mission, or DOM, is about pushing the boundaries of exploration. We're talking discovering new marine biodiversity, untapped mineral resources, and understanding the ocean's impact on our climate.
Okay, break it down. What exactly is the Deep Ocean Mission?
So it kicked off in 2021, a 5-year program. Deep-sea mining technologies are in development. And the star of the show, that manned submersible, will take people to the ocean floor.
Wait, people going down there? That's incredible.
It is. They'll start at depths up to 500 meters. But the goal, a mind-blowing 6,000 meters. Deeper than many mountains are tall.
Wow, what kind of impact could this have on research?
Imagine discovering new species, valuable mineral deposits. We could learn so much about how the ocean influences our climate. It's potentially transformative for India's science and technology.
Now, shifting focus. The World Economic Forum has been talking about the fragmentation of global financial systems. What exactly does that mean? Why should we be worried?
Well, it's a growing disconnect between different financial systems around the world. They're not working together as smoothly as they used to.
And what's causing this?
A few things, actually. One is economic statecraft. Countries using economics, like sanctions and tariffs, to achieve political goals. It disrupts things, creates barriers.
So it's a mix of economics and politics.
Exactly. Plus, we're moving toward a multipolar world. No single dominant power. This shift can lead to, well, different financial systems with different rules.
Okay, I see. But what's the real impact of this fragmentation?
The WEF says it could hit global GDP hard, potentially costing the world economy 5% of its output. And that's just in the short term.
5%? That's huge.
Yeah.
I imagine it would hit developing economies harder.
You're absolutely right. They might struggle to access capital, which would slow down their growth. They might even have to rely on less transparent sources of finance, leading to more instability.
So what's the solution? How do we fix this fragmentation?
The WEF suggests upholding the rule of law and protecting property rights, financial ownership, all that. It creates a stable environment for investment.
Makes sense. Investors need to feel secure.
Exactly. And standardizing regulations for cross-border capital flows, services, goods, even data. It would reduce barriers and make interactions smoother.
Sounds like international cooperation is key. Now let's talk about the plastic crisis. The World Economic Forum's GFAP, Right, that's the Global Plastic Action Partnership. They've got 7 new members, including Angola and Bangladesh.
They're all about tackling plastic waste, absolutely. Working with governments, businesses, everyone really, developing national action roadmaps.
So like blueprints for managing plastic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Reducing consumption, improving waste management. The goal, a circular economy for plastics.
So instead of just using and throwing away, we reuse and recycle. That's the ideal, right?
It is. But transitioning to that circular model, not easy. Plastic production and consumption are skyrocketing. And recycling rates, still far too low. Globally, only about 9% of plastic waste is actually recycled.
So most of it ends up in landfills, or worse, polluting the environment. What's stopping us from reaching that circular economy?
The scale is massive. We need huge investments in recycling infrastructure, especially in developing countries. And recycling can be more expensive than just making new plastic, which is a problem.
It sounds like a complex problem that needs both, like technological and behavioral solutions. Okay, shifting focus to international relations, the Indus Water Treaty, a landmark agreement between India and Pakistan, now facing some challenges. It's often held up as a model for water sharing, but there are some recent concerns, right?
Right. The treaty, brokered by the World Bank back in 1960, divides the waters of the Indus and its tributaries. India has the eastern rivers, Beas, Ravi, and Sutlej. Pakistan has the western rivers, Indus, Chenab, Jhelum.
A clear division. But is there any flexibility built in?
There are some nuances. Each country can use the rivers allocated to the other under certain conditions. For instance, India can build hydroelectric plants on the western rivers, but with specific design constraints.
And that's where the current dispute comes in.
Yes, the Kishanganga and Radal projects. Hydroelectric plants India is building on tributaries of the Jhelum and Chenab. Pakistan believes the designs violate the treaty and will reduce water flow downstream, impacting their agriculture and power generation.
What's India's position?
India maintains the projects comply with the treaty, and they're willing to address concerns, but through the treaty's dispute resolution mechanisms.
So what are those mechanisms? Is there a path to resolution?
It's a three-tiered process. First, the Permanent Indus Commission, a platform for direct talks. If that fails, a neutral expert appointed by the World Bank can give an unbiased opinion.
And if that doesn't work?
The final option is the Court of Arbitration, a more formal legal route. Initially, Pakistan wanted the court, while India preferred the neutral expert. But there's good news. A recent decision recognizes that a neutral expert can address these specific issues.
So hopefully a negotiated settlement is still possible. Now let's move on to some quick hits, important developments that we need to cover.
All right, the Madhya Pradesh High Court has a case that's clarifying the concept of enemy property.
So we're talking about property that belonged to, well, enemies of the state during wars, right? Mostly the wars with Pakistan and China.
Yeah.
But how is this relevant now?
It's about the 1968 Enemy Property Act and how it's managed. Amendments, especially one in 2017, have broadened the definition of enemy, even raising questions about inheritance rights, even for Indian citizens.
Sounds complicated. What about on the economic front?
The UNCTAD's Global Investment Trends Monitor report is out, and it paints a bit of a concerning picture. Global FDI, foreign direct investment, rose by about 11% in 2024, reached $1.4 trillion. But if you take out the flows through European conduit economies...
So like the money that passes through certain countries before reaching its final destination.
Exactly. If you take those out, the actual increase is much smaller, only around 3%.
So the headline figure is a little misleading.
Yes, it is. And what's worrying is the decline in FDI to developing countries. It fell by 2%. That's the second year in a row. They're having trouble attracting the investments they need to grow.
That's a worrying trend. Are there any bright spots?
Absolutely. Let's celebrate. The Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, or INSOI, has just won the Subhash Chandra Bose Apta Prabanthan Puraskar 2025.
For disaster management. That's fantastic. What did they do?
They're early warning systems for tsunamis, storm surges, all those ocean hazards, crucial for protecting lives and property along India's coast.
It's great to see that kind of work being recognized. Shifting gears to Kenya. Lake Naivasha, a major freshwater source, is facing a threat.
You're talking about the water hyacinth. It's an invasive species, a fast-growing plant, causes havoc in aquatic ecosystems.
What kind of havoc?
It grows so fast it creates these thick mats, blocking out sunlight, sucking up all the oxygen, kills off other plants and animals.
So it's literally choking the lake.
Basically, it's disrupting fishing, transportation, everything. A real ecological nightmare.
And it shows how these environmental problems can have a huge impact on people's lives. Now, back in India, there's been a push to rejuvenate the Vaigai River in Tamil Nadu.
The Madras High Court actually issued a directive calling for action.
Why? What's happening to the Vaigai?
It's a vital river for the region. Agriculture, drinking water, even cultural traditions. But it's facing pollution, industrial effluents, sewage discharge, all that. Plus, encroachment on the riverbanks, sand mining.
So the court is pushing for cleanup and restoration.
Yes. Pollution control, wastewater treatment, restoring the riverbanks. A multi-pronged approach.
Let's hope it works. Now, I'm curious about this initiative to digitally protect Kashmir's chinar trees. What's that all about?
These trees are iconic, known for living for a long time, and those beautiful autumn colors. They're a big part of Kashmir's landscape, their culture. But deforestation, disease, climate change, they're all threats.
So how do you digitally protect a tree?
It's a combination of geotagging and QR codes. Every chinar tree is mapped, given a unique QR code.
You can scan it and find out information about the tree.
Exactly. Location, age, health status. It helps with monitoring, tracking their health, preventing people from cutting them down illegally.
It's amazing what you can do with technology these days. Now, to cybercrime. The finance minister wants banks to integrate with the I4C, the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center. Why?
It's all about combating financial fraud. The I4C is a central hub for fighting cybercrime in India. They focus on crimes against women and children.
So it's a way to coordinate efforts between law enforcement, cybersecurity experts, everyone. But how will this integration with banks actually help?
It streamlines reporting and investigations, quicker responses, more effective investigations, and it helps them track those cybercriminals, prevent fraud, ensure justice is served.
So it's a proactive approach to cybersecurity. Okay, last quick hit. The Airport Economic Regulatory Authority, or AERA, has been in the news.
They regulate tariffs for airport services, things like landing fees, and they've been asked to explain those user development fees, UDFs.
UDFs. So what are they, and why the scrutiny?
Well, they're meant to fund infrastructure projects at airports. Those projects need a lot of money. But there are questions about transparency. Are they too high? Are passengers getting value for their money?
So making sure the fees are justified and used appropriately. It's about accountability.
Exactly. It's fascinating, isn't it, how all these events, tribal welfare, global finance, they all kind of paint a picture for UPSC aspirants. It gives them a sense of those challenges and opportunities that India is facing, both nationally and globally.
It's about seeing those connections. Right. Like we talked about FDI to developing countries declining, and India wants to achieve its sustainable development goals. How can those two things happen at the same time?
Well, India has to attract foreign investment while staying true to those sustainability commitments. Remember the WEF recommendations. A stable investment environment, rule of law, standardized regulations. India's been making progress there. Things like Make in India, the GST reforms. It's all about simplifying things, making it easier to do business.
So create a more predictable, attractive environment for investors. But how does that fit with sustainability?
India's been very vocal about renewable energy, climate action, social inclusion. And those things matter to investors, especially those who follow ESG principles. Environmental, social, and governance. It's a big deal now.
So it's like showing that you're committed to responsible, inclusive growth, something for UPSC aspirants to think about.
Absolutely. Understanding these global trends, how they impact India's development, that's crucial for the exam. Should we revisit some of those quick hits from January 25th, see what else we can unpack?
Sure. The Supreme Court wants to appoint ad hoc judges to clear the backlog of cases. Seems practical, but are there downsides?
One concern is, well, it could be seen as undermining the permanent judiciary. Transparency is key here. Merit-based selections, no political influence. Otherwise, people might lose trust.
So maintaining judicial independence is really important. Anything else?
Another thing to consider is consistency. Ad hoc judges come from different backgrounds. They might interpret the law differently. Could lead to some, discrepancies in rulings.
Makes sense. We need consistency in the law. Now, that Madhya Pradesh High Court case on enemy property, the 2017 amendment to the Enemy Property Act seems to be causing quite a stir. Can you explain what that amendment did and what the issues are?
Sure. So before 2017, the definition of enemy focused on, well, the individuals themselves. But the amendment expanded it to include their legal heirs, their successors, even if those heirs are Indian citizens.
So you're saying descendants are being held accountable for what their ancestors did, even if they stayed in India? What are the implications of that?
Many argue it's discriminatory. It goes against basic rights, raises questions about fairness, inheritance, historical justice, and this court case is just one example. This issue will likely end up in more courts, leading to more debate and legal battles.
It shows how legal interpretations can change over time, how society views things differently. Now, that UNCTAD report, the decline in FDI to developing countries, what's driving that trend?
Global uncertainty plays a big role. Inflation, geopolitical tensions, supply chain issues, it makes investors nervous. And developing countries, often they have weaker institutions. They're more vulnerable to those commodity price swings. They feel the impact more.
It's about understanding those vulnerabilities and creating a more resilient environment. Anything else at play?
Of course, domestic factors matter too. Bureaucracy, corruption, political instability, poor infrastructure. Those things scare investors away.
So it's a combination of global and local challenges. But the report also said that not all sectors are being hit equally, right?
That's right. Some sectors are booming, attracting lots of investment. Renewables, digital technologies, those are hot areas. But others, like manufacturing and extractive industries, they're seeing a decline.
So opportunities amidst the challenges. India needs to focus on those areas where it has an edge, right?
Yeah.
And create the right conditions for businesses to thrive.
Exactly. Now, some good news. In Deja, the Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services winning that award, the Subhash Chandra Bose Apta Prabandhan Puraskar 2025, that's a big deal. Why is their work so important?
Yeah, it's great to see them recognized. What exactly do they do and why is it so vital?
Think of them as the eyes and ears of the ocean. They provide real-time information, they track cyclones, monitor tsunamis, issue warnings. They also give crucial data for fisheries, shipping, all sorts of things. And with those extreme weather events becoming more frequent, their role is only going to become more crucial.
It shows how investing in science and technology can really make a difference. Now, about that invasive water hyacinth in Kenya, Lake Naivasha is a crucial freshwater source, and this plant is just taking over.
It's a classic case of an invasive species wreaking havoc. The water hyacinth, it comes from South America, but it's spread all over the world, and it grows like crazy, creating these massive mats that block sunlight, suck the oxygen out of the water, basically suffocating the native plants and animals.
So it's not just ugly, it's destroying the ecosystem. What are the consequences for Lake Naivasha?
Well, it's devastating for the local communities. Fishing is disrupted, boats can't move easily, the whole balance of the lake is thrown off, it affects livelihoods, the environment, everything.
What are they doing to fight back?
It's a tough battle. They're trying everything, manually removing it, using machines to harvest it. They've even introduced biological control agents like weevils that eat water hyacinth. It's a multi-pronged approach.
It highlights the need for a global response, right?
Yeah.
These environmental problems don't respect borders. Now, back to India. The Madras High Court has ordered the rejuvenation of the Vaigai River. What are the main challenges facing the river, and how will this directive help?
The Vaigai is facing a whole host of problems. Pollution is a big one, industrial waste, sewage, agricultural runoff. Then there's the issue of encroachment, people building on the riverbanks, and sand mining, which is making things worse.
So the court wants a complete overhaul.
Exactly. They're calling for pollution control, wastewater treatment plants, restoring the riverbanks, regulating sand mining. It's a long-term plan that requires a lot of cooperation from everyone involved.
It's about addressing the root causes, not just the symptoms. Now tell me more about that digital protection plan for Kashmir's chinar trees. It sounds really innovative.
It is. These trees, they're not just beautiful, they're a symbol of Kashmir, but they've been under threat. And this is a way to use technology to protect them.
So how does it work?
They're using a combination of geotagging and QR codes. Each tree is mapped, its location is recorded, and then it's given its own unique QR code.
So you can just scan the code with your phone and get all the information about the tree.
Exactly. Its location, age, health status, everything. It helps the authorities monitor the trees, track their health, and prevent illegal felling.
It's like giving each tree its own digital identity. Now, about the finance minister's push for banks to integrate with the I4C to combat financial fraud, why is this integration so important?
Cybercrime is a huge threat these days, and the I4C is at the forefront of fighting it. This integration will allow banks to share information more easily, coordinate investigations, and respond more quickly to cyber attacks.
So it's about breaking down silos and working together more effectively. What specific benefits will this bring?
Well, it should lead to faster response times, more effective investigations, and a better understanding of the latest cyber threats. Ultimately, it's about making our financial system more secure.
It's good to see proactive measures being taken. Now, about those user development fees, UDFs, that airport operators are charging, there's been a lot of talk about them.
It's a tricky issue. UDFs are supposed to help fund airport development, which is essential, but there are concerns about transparency, whether the fees are too high and whether passengers are getting their money's worth.
So it's a question of balance. Development is important, but passengers shouldn't be unfairly burdened.
Exactly. The ADRA, the regulatory authority, needs to provide more clarity on how these fees are calculated and how the money is being used.
It's about accountability and ensuring that everyone's interests are protected. Now, that amazing black hole discovery, LID 568, really caught my attention. It's changing our understanding of these cosmic giants.
It's fascinating, isn't it, to think that something so massive can exist and that it can grow so quickly. It challenges our existing models and raises new questions about the universe.
It's a reminder that we still have so much to learn. And speaking of pushing boundaries, India's deep ocean mission is a remarkable endeavor.
Sending a manned submersible to depths of 6,000 meters is a huge achievement. It's about exploring the unknown, unlocking the secrets of the ocean, and potentially harnessing its resources for the benefit of humanity.
It's a testament to India's scientific ambition and its growing technological capabilities. What are the main objectives of the mission, and why is it so significant for India?
The Deep Ocean Mission has several key goals. One is to study the ocean's impact on our climate. Another is to discover new marine biodiversity. And of course, there's the potential for exploring and exploiting untapped mineral resources. It's a holistic approach to understanding and utilizing the ocean's potential.
It sounds like a perfect blend of scientific curiosity, technological prowess, and strategic vision.
Absolutely. It's a mission that captures the imagination and holds immense promise for the future.
Well, we've covered an incredible amount of ground today, from the depths of the ocean to the intricacies of global financial systems. It's been an insightful journey through some of the most pressing issues facing India and the world.
Welcome back. As we wrap up our deep dive into the current affairs from January 25th, 2025, let's see what key insights we can take away for those UPSC aspirants.
It's amazing how much we've covered, really. From tribal welfare to black holes, it's been quite a journey.
And remember, for the UPSC, it's not just about knowing the facts, it's about understanding the connections, those underlying trends.
Exactly. Like those airport fees, those UDFs,
Yeah.
balancing development with passenger interests. What are your thoughts on that?
It's tricky. Airports need investment, and UDS can provide that, but transparency is key. Passengers need to know where their money's going, see actual improvements.
So accountability matters. Now, that black hole, LID 568, it really makes you think. Consuming matter faster than we thought possible?
Incredible. It really challenges those existing models. Supermassive black holes, maybe they form and grow much faster than we realized.
It just shows you how much we still don't know. The universe is full of surprises. Speaking of pushing boundaries, India's deep ocean mission is quite something.
It is. Sending people down to 6,000 meters, that's a major achievement. Exploring those depths, unlocking those secrets, it's exciting.
It shows India's commitment to scientific exploration. But it's not just about science, right? There are strategic and economic aspects as well.
Oh, absolutely. Accessing those deep-sea resources, it could be transformative for India.
Well, it's been a fascinating discussion. Tribal welfare, global finance, environmental challenges, technology, we've covered a lot of ground.
And I hope our listeners, those dedicated UPSC aspirants, will take away some valuable insights. Remember, it's not just about memorizing facts, it's about analyzing, connecting the dots, developing those critical thinking skills.
Exactly. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into those issues that shape our world.
We'll be back soon with more insights and analysis. Until then, best of luck with your UPSC preparations.